everybody, welcome back to Tea Time. My name is James Hutchison, and we're on episode 5 today. We've got Adrienne, our co-host, with us, and a special guest, Leslie Byers. She is your membership director here at the club. We're super excited to have you, Leslie. Welcome.
Thank you so much. I'm very excited to be here with you both.
Yeah. Awesome. So we're here with Leslie to talk a little bit about the CPKC Women's Open coming up in August. She's going to fill us in on some opportunities for the membership to volunteer, get involved, stuff like that. And then we're going to jump into a discussion about kind of ways to improve or continue to keep your game where you want it to be if you're someone who doesn't have a ton of time to practice or commit to improvement. So Leslie is also a golf professional, so she has some great thoughts on that as well. So we're really excited for the episode, and I guess we'll jump right into it. Do you want to just give us a quick overview for those who don't know about what's happening with CPKC?
Yeah, absolutely. So Mississauga is very fortunate. We get to be host of the 2025 CPKC Women's Open. So it's the opportunity for about 156 of the world's best female golfers to come and play the golf course. It's also going to be a pretty incredible opportunity for residents of Mississauga, Mississauga members, fellow golf professionals to kind of get involved with the championships. So it'll be pretty special to host that at the club.
Nice.
What else do you want me to say?
Maybe just like, what are some ways members can be involved? I know there's some committees that are dedicated to different areas of the tournament. We're still looking for volunteers, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So the one thing that is pretty interesting that people might not realize is that it really takes a lot of people to run a successful event. So it requires 1,200 volunteers. And of those 1,200 volunteers, we have 24 committees. And each of those committees are co-chaired by Mississauga members. So it's pretty incredible how many people it takes. And then that's just from the volunteer standpoint. Of course, you'd have all of Golf Canada and all of the the management team here that's looking after it. But from a member standpoint, so there's about 24 committees that they can volunteer on. The biggest one would be marshals. An exciting one for some of the juniors might be for the caddying. So that's an opportunity for caddy during the Monday Pro-Am and the Wednesday Pro-Am. And what else should I say?
So just to jump in, like as a coach, if I have juniors that don't do that, I really want them to get involved, because like caddying for a professional, like you would learn so much, right? Like if you just stand there and listen and like watch them operate, like I feel like they would just learn a ton. So that's a huge thing.
Yeah, and the important part for those caddies too is they really want them to be Mississauga members. So they want it to be people who know the golf course and can help people make their way around the course with lots of local knowledge. So it'd be awesome for some young kids to get involved. And really the requirement is just age 14. So providing someone is 14, they're welcome to volunteer, and we'd certainly love to have them.
So if you're a member and you're watching this and you don't know how to kind of get involved, what should they do?
Yeah, I would suggest, number one, you can go to the CPKC website. We can certainly link it in the bottom of this video. And that, through there, they can click on volunteer, and then it will go through the various committees that they can volunteer on. You can certainly reach out to myself, Camilla and Reed, who are co-chairs of the tournament. They're also a great resource, so they can also be reached out to as well. But yeah, just don't hesitate to ask questions. We have lots of stuff posted on our Instagram and on our website as well. So we're there to help members get involved, and if anyone has any challenges registering to be a volunteer, we can certainly help out too.
Thanks.
It's awesome. What a great opportunity.
So Adrienne, what are you most looking forward to about the tournament then?
Yeah, I'm super excited about all the female professionals that are going to be here. Being a junior golfer growing up as a female as well, it's just super inspirational to see. So, Lauren Coughlin, last year's champion, Lydia Ko, Brooke Henderson, all these other big names that are going to be here, especially for the girls that are here too. Like, I think that's something they're going to enjoy, and they're going to look up to them and say, wow, like I can do this. If they can do it, then I can too, right? So just being in that atmosphere as well, and even learning from them would be such an amazing opportunity.
Yeah, and seeing other Canadians, like, people from where you're from, right? So for girls here at the club or in Mississauga, like seeing someone who grew up down the street from you, living the dream on the LPGA tour, like that really, I would think would be inspiring, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. The other thing for me is like, when I put my coach's hat on, I'm so looking forward to seeing all my athletes that I coach be able to watch these elite athletes, right? So they can see the work that they put in. They can see them late night on the range or working out or whatever, right? Like they will see behind the scenes, not just when they're playing their round, but like all the prep that goes into it before and after, and like how hard it is to be elite at something, right?
Yeah, and it'll be pretty awesome too, because they're going to be playing the blue and gold tees, which I would hazard a guess that that's probably the tee that majority of our members play.
Yeah.
So our members are really going to get to see how the top female golfers play the golf course.
Yeah.
Yeah, and for most 40-something guys who probably hit it between 240 and 260 off the tee, they're going to be very in line with the distances of these women, right?
Yeah.
So they're going to
Yeah.
be hitting similar clubs, so they'll really get to see where they're maybe a little more deficient versus like some of the top players in the world, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, cool. So maybe that will kind of shift us into our second half, talking about coaching and golf instruction a little bit. So we wanted to talk about the average player, right? Like most of our members are not going to be PGA, LPGA Tour players, right?
Yep.
Sorry if I'm shattering some of your dreams here.
Not yet.
It's just a reality, okay? So stick with me. So we're going to talk about those people, young professionals, people who still have a job, you're not retired, and maybe you have a little less time to put into it than a pro or even someone who's retired and is making this more of a priority in their life, right? So if you want to play better golf, but you only have, say, an hour, 2 hours to practice a week, and maybe you only play once a week on Saturdays or whatever, what can we do to get better? Because I think we just can't give up and be like, well, I don't have time. Like, we still have to, use our time effectively and try to get better. So I want to pick both your brains about that, and just like, what are some of the things you guys suggest our members should be doing, to improve with limited time?
Yeah, well, I would say just off the hop, I mean, we put a lot of emphasis on the actual physical game of golf, but there's also the mental side of it too. And I know you guys recently did the book review.
Yep.
And I think that's just some of the things that our members could do. And certainly I know I try and do it at home when I have limited time to play, because I really just don't get to play as much as I used to. It's just really, read how can I mentally be stronger out there to recognize that, we're all going to make mistakes, but at the end of the day, if we can just kind of move past that, and just hit the next shot, then we can be better off. But
So
yeah, I would
stuff
say
like breath work you can do at home. You can mind your self-talk. Like, I know that's a big one for me, is I try to keep my self-talk really positive, because you can't, like we talked about last episode, you can't just turn it on and off, right? So like doing those things at home or like in your daily life would be super beneficial for sure. Yeah.
It'll translate into your golf game, right? Like, if you can practice these things and be really good at it in your everyday life, it'll be a lot easier when you're actually golfing on your own or with friends and family, whoever it may be. It'll just be easier to, not call yourself an idiot or be so harsh on yourself, right? Because the game's so hard.
Well, I think when you can learn from the top professional golfers is that often, like, sure, they get really excited when they make that birdie or eagle, but for the most part, they're pretty even keel. So if we can do that.
Yeah, that's a skill to learn, and I would love to know how they just stay so zen throughout the whole thing.
Yeah.
Whether there's pressure or if they're running away with it, I'm sure there's always something going on in their heads. How do they do that? I want to know how they're just like this.
Yeah, I mean,
all the time.
you never know what's going on behind the.
Well, of course.
But yes, like
It
most
just
of them are
looks
pretty relaxed out there.
Yeah.
Okay, so mental skills, human skills, as the Vision 54 women would call it. What else can we do? What about like working on our actual technique or our swing? Any suggestions there?
I think if you only have that chunk of time, like an hour, to really practice, I think the first thing that people want to do is run to the driving range, right, and grab a driver and start taking full swings, which is fair, right? That is part of the game, but where you're going to really save your shots is on the short game, whether it's chipping, pitching, bunker play, putting. Because if you're, let's say, all over the map with your driver, and you can save yourself with a solid short game where you can chip up onto the green and 1 or 2 putt, that's going to save you an extra putt right there, and that's 1 shot off of your score every time. So if you can really just tell yourself, even if you have to do half and half just to start, so you don't have to fully eliminate the driver, because driver's fun, full swings are important and fun. So just build a schedule where you dedicate the majority of the time for short game. And then once you master that, then you can go over to a full swing driver.
So your opportunity for improvement a little greater with short game than full swing, right? Because it is harder to make full swing changes because you're moving so quickly and it's a more complicated motion. I think it would take more time to integrate anything you're working on versus like if you're just trying to change your pitching. Like it's really a slow motion, so you can really feel what you're supposed to do, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
for sure. I would say like on top of that, like having a coach, right? I know I'm
Yeah.
obvious
We're
coming from
biased.
me, we're biased, but like if you only have an hour a week, but you're not practicing the right stuff,
Yes.
like now you're just wasting all your time, right?
Yep.
So having a plan, even though you only have an hour a week, go to a coach and say like, here's what I have. We're not judging you. We're not expecting everybody to practice 10 hours a week, 20 hours a week. Like
Yeah.
if you say you have an hour, I'll come up with a plan. They'll come up with a plan for you for that hour, right?
Yeah, you're practicing
Exactly.
with purpose.
Yeah, instead of just kind of, I guess I'll putt now or
Yeah.
whatever,
Yeah.
right?
And anything is, or even like the smallest thing is better than nothing, right? Like even if you tell yourself, man, I'm really tired, had a long day at work, but I'm just going to go to the club for 10 minutes and putt. At least that's better than, saying, okay, I'm tired and I'm not going to go. And you're just stuck in this rut of not going
Yeah.
consistently, right? And then when you do go, that's when you start to get down on yourself and you're like, man, I'm not really good anymore and I don't have the time anyway. So that's when you're just like, all right, I
Yeah.
guess I'll just give up for the season, or I'll just work with what I have and I'll just practice whatever I have, right? So it's always good to, like you say, as much as biased as we are, reach out to a coach and we'll kind of help you through it, however long or short you want it to be.
Yeah. So if you had like we said, this situation, an hour a week, would you suggest, using that 1 hour in one chunk if it's possible, or would you suggest breaking that hour up? Like, would you want to do like 3 20-minutes if you can versus an hour at once?
That's a good question.
It is. I think it depends.
Because if it's too short, then you're not really.
Well, you're probably just
Anything.
warming up, so you haven't really
Yeah.
probably done much constructive. I'd probably go for the hour so that I could, block out and make sure that I'm focused for that hour.
Yeah.
I don't know if that 20 minutes over 3 sessions would allow me to do that. But at the end of the day, if you only have 20 minutes for 3 sessions, then that's
still
what you have to
better
go
than
with.
nothing.
Yeah, absolutely.
I would think, like, for me, probably 3 times 20 minutes or 2 times 30 minutes would be better than 1 hour-long block, just because by the end of an hour, I'm probably not as focused as I would be anyway,
Yeah.
right? I'd
Yeah.
probably start to, the last 20 minutes probably wouldn't be as effective as I'd want it to be.
Yeah, that's
So,
fair.
Yeah, like, so we're talking about an hour, but like, think about it. If you can do 2:30s, try that first, maybe.
Yeah.
And then if you feel like, it's not effective, then maybe tweak it. Try going for an hour and then going for 20 minutes or whatever, right? Like
Yeah.
find that kind of practice sweet spot where your mind can be really engaged and you can get a lot out of that time.
Yeah.
Yeah. I
Right.
think the less, or not the less, but as long as you're positive about it, right? Like you can't be hard on yourself for not being there for the full hour or not expecting like these results that are up to your standards, right? Like you have to start low, right? Like if your first accomplishment is, okay, I actually went, that's perfect, right? Like you got
Yeah.
up, you came here, you practiced for 10, 15, 20 minutes, whatever it is, like that's a good base, right?
Yeah.
You build off of that, and that's what gives you the confidence from what I find anyway. Like if you're ever stuck in a rut, you just start something. And then once you start doing it more often, you get more confident with it, more comfortable. And then once you start doing it more often, that's when you see the results. That's when you can stay longer and you want to stay longer.
Right.
You're motivated to do more, right?
Yeah. Because,
Yeah, and then if you can partner it with doing stuff at home too, then
Of course.
those little blocks will become bigger blocks too.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah. Good. Okay. So 2 other things I wanted to talk briefly about, kind of some calibration stuff you can do. And then maybe we'll talk about like at-home exercises, like physical stuff you can do, not about golf swing, but just about getting your body a little bit more
Yeah.
prepared. So the calibration stuff, for putting especially, like once you find your best setup, let's call it, like your best right, setting up to the ball, we want to really make sure we're calibrating daily if possible, so that we're setting up the same every time. So that would be like distance from the ball, eye position over the ball, how much bend in our arms and our waist we have, right?
Yeah.
So I would definitely suggest making yourself a little station at home where you have like a measured distance from the ball, and you have a mirror, let's say like one of the putting mirrors, so that your distance is the same every time and your eyes are in the same spot every time. And then that way like you come to the golf course, you're going to set up the same each time, and that you're already halfway to like great putting at that point, right? The other thing you can do, Gareth Raflewski taught me this, is like calibrating your vision, because oftentimes day in and day out we'll look down our target line differently if we're either set up differently or just if we don't calibrate it, right? So putting, a dot or something along your target line every 3 feet, and then just stand over it. You don't even have to hit putts, but just look from dot to dot to dot and look back to your target, or to the ball. And if the dots all look like they're in a straight line, your eyes are calibrated. But for most people, 1 or 2 of the dots are going to look like they're out of line, even though they're not, because you're going to set it up with a string or something. So just calibrating your eyes and how you look down your target line is so important for your aim. And if your aim's off, then your stroke's going to be off, and you get all kinds of out of whack, right? So if you set up the same every time and you have your eyes calibrated every time, you'll be, again, way ahead of the game for putting. So I would suggest, if you could do that for 5 minutes a day, either at home or at the golf course, that would help big time.
Do you think eye dominance has something to do with the Raflewski line? Like if someone is either left or right eye dominant, and let's say their left eye is the not dominant eye, and they look down, do you think that could have an effect on how people read a putt sometimes?
Yes. Don't quote me on this, but I think it's the right eye dominant people who tend to look more to the left, because they're trying to get their right eye onto the target line.
Yeah, that would make sense.
Right? So if you're left eye dominant, you're more inclined to look down your target line straight. And the right eye dominant people like me tend to do this a little bit more, which would get your vision going over the left, which then gets your aim too far to the right.
Well, and wasn't it ball position too was kind of impacted based upon which eye was dominant? I thought I recall learning that back in the day.
Yeah, your eye, again, right eye dominant, you have it more back.
Yeah,
guess,
I think
you're
so,
trying to
'cause you
center
have
it
it,
in that
yeah.
vision. Yeah. Yeah, and that's so ball position is another thing you want to calibrate, right? You don't want the ball moving around day to day.
No.
For sure.
Can you explain how to figure it out, which dominant eye you are?
Yeah. So
A fun little
it is a
trick.
fun
The
little
triangle?
thing. Yeah. So you kind of make a triangle like this, and you look at something in the distance. Like usually when I do it on the range, I tell someone to look at one of the flags, and then you just hold up this little triangle, and you keep both eyes open. And then I ask you to close one eye. Do you still see the flag? Most people will say yes. And then if you close the other eye, do you still see the flag? They'll say no. So whichever eye you see the flag out of, that's your dominant eye. It's pretty
So neat
pretty
little
simple.
trick.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I think, is it 50-50? Like, which eye is dominant? Do you know?
Between left and right?
Yeah,
It's
like
half and
are most people? It's like split half and half.
What are you
for
guys?
dominance? I know I'm right.
I'm right.
I actually don't know.
You don't know? You want to do it right
Do
now?
it right
Sure,
now.
do it on camera.
Try look.
What am I looking for? Like,
Let's look at the camera.
okay.
Okay, camera's far enough away.
Okay.
Live lessons right now. What do we see?
So close one eye?
Close your right eye. Do you still see it?
Yep.
Close your left eye.
No, it's gone.
Okay, so your left eye dominant.
Oh, there we go.
Okay, so I don't have to swing my head around?
So I mean, in all likelihood,
Yeah.
you naturally look down your line probably a little better than us, all things being equal.
My putting says otherwise, but okay. Good to know.
Well, it's not your eyes, hopefully.
We'll go with that.
Okay, so the last topic, what can we do at home, either stretching or maybe with a couple little weights or something like that? You got any opinions there?
I should practice what I preach.
Okay.
Which is?
Yeah, I'm a big believer in like foam rollers.
Okay.
And any like spike balls. Foam rollers are good for like full body stretches, and they can still target like specific muscles that you're using. Like legs are a big one I find. There's lots of tension and lots of not pain, but there's some discomfort there. So it's always
Sorry.
It's okay.
So fascia, right? We're trying to break up the fascia in the
Yeah.
muscles, right?
exactly.
Yeah.
And then if there's something specifically that there's like a specific muscle going on that's causing you discomfort, grab like a golf ball or a spike ball and literally just put it wherever it is and you just like lean into it.
Oh, that's painful.
It can be painful. Obviously do it with something softer at first. I wouldn't grab the spike ball
Yeah.
right away. And anything that helps with range of motion. That's a big one too. I feel like that's something that a lot of people really don't focus on. They kind of just come here and they'll do the arm thing, they'll stretch this way and that way, but are you doing
The old crack the back, crack
yeah,
the
it's
back.
like, oh, I took a swing, my back's good, right? Is there like a dynamic warm-up that you can integrate into that? Again,
Yeah.
I should do that myself, but
So one cool thing, I've been doing dynamic warm-ups with people in my classes and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And now along the range, we do these like leg swings, like forward, back, and side to side. And every day now, I'll see people out on the range swinging their legs around, and I'm like, yes, you're doing the dynamic
Making
warm-up.
an impact, right?
Yeah, so that's kind of cool.
They all need to be like Miguel Angel Jimenez. Remember his his little
yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
that's-
you do that one at home.
Yeah.
Okay, so Les, you got any stretches or anything that you'd recommend?
Yeah.
Any go-tos?
I'm a big balance board person, so I do that at home. Helps with stability.
Do you want to explain what that is?
Yeah, so it's just a board that you would stand on that has kind of a circular base, so it just helps with your core. So you're engaging your core.
Nice.
Yep.
Often we'll do it stick handling. So I mean, I suppose some of that could transfer over to golf, but the other thing would just be doing yoga. So I do that a fair bit. That just keeps with your mobility and to your point, Adrienne, just about your you need lots of shoulder flexibility, back strength, all those things. So I find yoga is a good thing for that.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. And if you walk a lot, then it's legs. You got to mind your legs,
Yeah.
like quads, calves, hamstrings. Those all get tight. If you're walking 2-3 times a week, you need to stretch those
For
daily
sure.
if you can, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay. Any last thoughts or opinions on how to be good in a limited amount of time?
Just have patience with yourself, I would say, right? Like set realistic expectations. You can't expect to be the best golfer in the world if you're not able to commit the time, but also just understand that it's a wonderful game. So just to be out there
Yeah.
with your friends playing it, enjoying a nice walk, that's also okay too. It's nice to get those birdies, but it's also okay to
Just be
make a
out.
par or just to be out there.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
100%.
Awesome.
Yeah, I think we're super excited for the CPKC this year. It's going to be really, for me anyway, it's going to be such an exciting experience, and I'm really looking forward to it.
Nice.
Try not to fangirl too much,
Yeah.
but, you know.
We're gonna act like we've been there before.
Yeah.
And the other thing too for members, so in addition to volunteering, I should say that there's also a bunch of corporate hospitality options. So they can purchase suites, or they could play in a championship pro-am, which they'd get to play with 2 LPGA professionals for 9 holes each. So that's a pretty cool experience. And the other one would be billeting. So there's also the opportunity for members to host LPGA stars and possibly some caddies at their house. So that's a pretty neat experience where they'll, sit down and might share a meal with you. So it's
Cool.
so there's
That's
lots of
awesome.
opportunities for members
Yeah.
to be involved.
That's great.
Beautiful. Okay.
Amazing.
Well, that'll wrap it up, I guess, for episode
Awesome.
5. Thank you, Leslie.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for having
Thanks,
me.
Adrienne, as always. And
Thanks,
we will
James.
see everybody in a couple weeks for episode 6.
Yep.